If I were to have a podcast, I would want to talk about being in a global pandemic.
Ooh, why would we want to talk about that? We're living it.
Yeah.
Is that why we should talk about it?
I don't know. It's affected us both in different ways.
Very different ways. And I think it's also important for us to take a minute and apologize to our 4 followers for our 3-year delay.
3 or 4. It was either 2018 or 2019 that we did this.
Yeah. So thanks for your patience. We're back. We're back with If I Had a Podcast.
Let's see. What have I done since 2019? Steven moved in.
Yeah.
Steven and Willow moved in.
Yep.
Y'all got married.
Yes.
Global pandemic.
And that's...
I chopped off all my hair.
Yes. Pre-pandemic.
Pre-pandemic, I chopped off all my hair.
Like, that feels like a pandemic thing to do, but you actually did it.
I did it like a month before.
Pre-pandemic, yes.
I did it January 2020.
It's like you instinctually knew it was coming.
I knew that it was either now or never.
Yeah.
I knew it was now or later, actually. I knew it was like,
Yeah.
now's the time, because I don't want to do it before everyone else is doing it.
Yeah. There was a lot of head shaving.
Yeah.
During the pandemic.
But I was a trendsetter. I did it before.
Were. Yeah. That was before the crisis. Oof. Downhill from there.
Yeah, that was freshman year.
Yeah. Well, why don't you tell us how the pandemic has affected? What was this experience like?
Bad.
Beginning, middle, current?
Bad.
Yeah. Can you give us a little bit more insight?
Yeah. So, as previously stated, it was bad. Let's see. When it first started, I was like, woo, 2 weeks off of school. And then I was low-key hyped because I already needed a break. Freshman year hit, and I was already struggling with school, and I needed a break, and they were like, 2 weeks out of school, and I was like, epic, awesome. I said, like, all right, teacher, see you later. And then I did not. I did not, in fact, see them later. I, in fact, never saw them again. Because let's see, there was, the rest of that year was remote, and then the next year was remote. I saw some of them again because we went back into hybrid, but I wasn't able to see most of them again. And then I changed schools. Mm-hmm. And so there was never a good, like, end of year goodbye.
No closure.
No closure. Mr. Pavez, if you're out there, goodbye. You're the one I liked.
Oh, yeah. Friends you couldn't say goodbye to.
Oh, yeah.
And as an empathetic person, watching your senior friends have the end of their senior year, what they've worked 13 years towards, and here comes March when those senior activities are starting to get finalized, and not just prom. We're talking about senior sunrise, senior prank, senior skip, any type of last sports, drama, choir, any type of the arts events, all of it go from being put on hold to being canceled. What was that like, not as somebody who was a senior, but as somebody who had friends going through that?
Yeah, I think what hit hardest for my friend group was drama, because they were halfway through a show when they were like, okay, we're going to like postpone practice, and then suddenly they just never got to do it again. Like, I remember Cora, my old costume director, she had set up the costumes. She was ready. No one got to try them on. They got to skip out on their entire like last Drama Fest, which is like the big end of the show and end of the year show. And then that happened the next year. Mm-hmm. And then that happened this year as well.
Yeah.
Where Drama Fest got canceled.
Yeah, history in the making.
We are in history, and that's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't plan on having kids, but if I did, I would complain about this time all the time.
Yes.
I'd be like, wow, I know that you don't want to hang out with your friends, but back in my day, I couldn't hang out with my friends. So go be social.
Yeah. That's how these things start. The trauma responses we then project onto our children.
Yeah. Because the pandemic also affected me not just with school, but with like depression. Depression itself thrived in the pandemic. I did not, in fact, thrive in the pandemic.
Your depression was like, I've been waiting for this.
Yeah. My anxiety was waiting for it, in fact. My anxiety was like, I told y'all something like this would happen.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Everyone told me not to catastrophize. Is that a word? Did I say that right? Catastrophize?
Sure.
You know what I mean, though, right?
Yeah, make things into a catastrophe.
I think it's a word.
Okay.
If not, it is now.
Yeah.
That's how words start, right? Somebody says it, and another person understands the interpretation. Voila, word is formed.
Yeah.
So everyone told you not to. And then you were right. And then you were finding yourself in a global pandemic where it wasn't just staying home. It was quarantining. Mm-hmm. We weren't really allowed to leave, or at least strongly discouraged to leave our homes. You could go for a walk outside as long as we all wore face masks and you didn't walk on the same sidewalk as others, and we could go to the grocery store if we absolutely had to, but we were wearing gloves and masks. And in the beginning, we were, wearing clothes we would come home and change from, and you wash your hands for like a minute in hot water and then sanitize them, and then you washed all the groceries, and the world shut down. Things weren't open. Movie theaters weren't open.
Pools, swimming pools.
Libraries.
Oh, libraries.
Things just stopped existing, and all we could do was sit and be and sit and be.
How did the pandemic affect you?
Well, as someone who likes being at home with my family, knowing my family is safe, that proved to be a useful experience for my anxiety. It will definitely make reintegration harder for me. I already struggle with it. I was supposed to have plans this Friday. I was supposed to co-host a game event for a local women's group, and I reached out to the person who's putting it all together and said, I just don't think I'm ready. I don't think that I can go into a building with 20, 25 other people in close proximity where I don't know their vaccine status. I don't know if they're mask wearers. I don't know if they're sick and they don't even believe in COVID, so they just aren't even testing. They think it's a cold. It'd be different if it was outside, but I just don't think I can do it inside. I don't know if the place that we're hosting it is like what their air quality is like, what their ventilation system is like. And so, she was kind and understood, but it does affect me. I think I have always towed that line of, I just want to stay at home forever. I totally understand the people who become housebound. So I had to be cognizant of that. I try to get out of the house at least once a week with people I trust in a situation I trust and I feel safe, in order to ensure I don't go to a darker place of convincing myself I'm no longer safe. I loved being at home with my family. I loved working from home. I went from working in an office to working from home. I love that. I got to we played so many board games in the beginning. Mm-hmm. Like at least one a day, if not multiple a day. I loved that time. I will always look back at this. And although in the back of my mind is the cause of why we had that time together, I will still smile like, oh, these years were so great. We played so many board games and video games and hung out, and we tried our hands at homeschooling, and we made up our own theme days, and all the extra walks we took, and just time together. To me, there is a beauty in that. And as someone who works to look at things from a positive lens, I hold on to that.
Yeah.
I'll say my clothes fit tighter.
Mine too.
And I'm not inclined to do anything about that. I'm totally okay with that. I wear a lot more stretch pants, leggings. I don't know why I said stretch pants. I never call them stretch pants.
Yeah, who says stretch pants?
That's what they were called when I was a child.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we called them stretch pants. Interesting. I wear a lot more leggings now than I ever did. I think going into the pandemic, I maybe had 2 pairs of leggings. And now I have probably in my closet, I'd say 10 to 12. But then there's like the other 10 I've purchased and given to either you or Willow.
Yeah. Okay, tell me about your honeymoon and coming back from that.
Oh, okay. Thanks. That was an experience. So Steven and I got married February 29th, 2020. We promptly flew to Miami and boarded a cruise. At that point, there was a couple known cases of COVID, and there was one cruise ship, the Princess cruise ship, that had COVID on board, and they were stuck at sea. No ports would let them dock because nobody knew what this was and nobody knew what to do with it. So we thought, of all the cruises in the world that happen at all the times, like, what are the chances we're going to have to deal with this COVID thing that nobody knows about? Slim to none. So we get on the cruise and they talk about that experience, and they tell us all the things that they've put into place, all the extra cleaning. They brought on a ton of extra staff, so the place would just be scrubbed at all times. They put up a bunch of hand washing stations and sanitized stations. There were certain areas you couldn't go into unless the staff that stood there monitored you washing your hands and sanitizing your hands. So it felt super clean. But we didn't have the hindsight yet in order to be able to look back and see how much we appreciated those extra efforts. So we went out of the country and we told our family, we're not going to have our phones on. We're going to be on airplane mode this whole time. This is our honeymoon. If there's an emergency with the kids, we don't want to know about it, because what are we going to do? Like, charter a jet off of the cruise and come home? No, we would then just be stuck on this cruise freaking out. So we just wanted to go. So we get back into Florida. We both turn our phones off of airplane modes. The first thing that came through my phone was a message from Kristen saying, OMG, are you okay? Are you alive? I just read about a couple on their honeymoon who have died. Are you okay? Please message me back. And I'm so confused by this, thinking it's just some sporadic, thing that happened, coincidental. But then my phone just kept going, and notification after notification, people sending me articles about what was happening, people telling me if there's toilet paper in Florida, buy some toilet paper, buy sanitizer. It was so bizarre. And we were supposed to come back and spend the next week doing things around here, going to the movies, just like day activities. But instead, that was basically the end of our honeymoon. We flew back. We were so lucky to fly back. There were a lot of people who couldn't even get off their cruise ships, let alone get on the airplane. So I don't know how we lucked out. We still did not understand the significance yet. So when we landed, we went straight from the airport to a hotel where my friend was hosting her birthday, and we had that event too. And then we started to learn more and more and more, but leaving the world safe and coming back to a actual global pandemic where we were flying to the hub in North America for COVID-19. It was a very surreal experience, and we later learned not only did we disembark from the last cruise Royal Caribbean had before shutting down, we were the last people on that specific ship. That ship was retired from the fleet after our cruise. So I would have loved to go back on that ship, like a year later for funsies or whatever, because we met a few regulars who just always were on that ship. One in particular even gave us his business card that was made for him as a regular of the ship. It's a really cute experience. I highly recommend going on a cruise for anybody out there who is hesitant. I just love it so much. So yeah, we came back to that. We came back to working from home and homeschooling. I will never, ever not feel extremely lucky that we got to have our wedding, our cruise, and return home. Mm-hmm. So many people cannot say that.
That's a crazy way to discover COVID, like global pandemic COVID. I remember February 2020 being on TikTok, and people started making these memes about COVID, and they started making these jokes about COVID, and I was like, what is this COVID thing? So I had to look it up, and I was like, well, that will never affect me. And no one thought it would affect them.
Nobody did.
Everyone was making jokes about it because, of course, it won't affect us.
Yeah.
And then I remember joking about it with my friends.
Yeah.
Every time they were sick, I'd be like, oh, that's that new virus that's going around. Suddenly, there was 2 weeks off of school.
Yeah.
And then we never went back.
It really created a divide in our country in a way I don't know that I or most could have ever predicted would happen. We know that there's a political divide, but there's a difference between how we feel taxes should be implemented or changed versus the way we've seen the political divide impact the virus. Watching other countries nip it in the bud so quickly, close their country, close the stores and businesses, pay people to stay home and be safe, squash COVID, and then return to normal, versus us, who people are fighting for their medical freedom because it's all of a sudden a political thing. It's put us on the map as the laughing stock of the world.
I remember I saw a TikTok, again, in 2020, late 2021. It was this person in the Netherlands having a party, and they weren't wearing masks. And everyone in the comments that were American or a few other places were like, guys, wear masks. And this lady was like, y'all still have that?
Yeah.
Y'all still have COVID?
Yeah.
And it was like, suddenly the British and the Americans were together on that one, and we were like, yes.
Yeah. Apparently, we like to prioritize. I don't even know. Stupidity?
Yeah.
I just can't even fathom it at this point, how some of these thought processes are happening, and how people are allowing their loved ones to die in order to be married to their conviction of, I don't believe COVID exists, I don't believe in a vaccine, I believe in medical freedom. I can't imagine sacrificing my loved ones for that. Mm-hmm. Even if you told me right now, Kristen, I know you don't believe the earth is flat, but if you start telling people the earth is flat and you start promoting that the earth is flat, and you 1 week or once a week post on social media about the earth being flat, we'll make sure your children and family are healthy for the next 25 years. You will buy their health. I would make t-shirts about how the earth is flat. Like, what wouldn't I do? And these are people who have gotten every vaccine before the COVID vaccine. But this one, all of a sudden, is not going in their body.
Yep.
It's devastating.
Yeah.
And so things like that, of course, those are the things that impact my anxiety. And fuel for so many depression and such. And it's been really interesting to see the way that facts are presented to people to help them stick with their narrative. Like, if nobody gets the vaccine, only 1% of the population will die. And 1% is so small when you're talking about a small pizza, but 1% of 7.2 billion is still millions. Like, it's still so many. So if you're asking that many people to die, and maybe it's not millions, I think it is millions. Maybe it's just hundreds of thousands. But it's still a huge number. I did the math for Willow because that was, a sentiment she had heard and repeated. Well, only 1% will die. And I said, let's look up and see what 1% of the world is right now. And once she saw that, she was shocked because it was presented to her and so many others like, no big deal. It's so small.
I remember, so I listened to a historical medicine podcast, and they had this episode probably March, April 2020. And they were like, the point of this episode is to like debunk this COVID thing. And they were like, it's not that big of a deal. It's not going to be worse than the flu. It's projected to be bad, but not as worse as the flu. Go get your flu shot. And then, like 4 months later, they released a new episode. Like, hey guys,
my bad.
This is on us. We were wrong, and like, or maybe it was like later than that. But their next episode was them being like, okay, we were wrong, and that was like so interesting to go back to, like 2021, to go back to that first episode, and being like, oh, wow, remember when we all thought this?
Remember when we just laughed at the TikToks and the memes? We do go back and go, wow, I had no idea what was coming for us.
Yep.
What are you doing?
What you doing?
We also have a cat now.
We do have a cat now.
He looks like he's kind of getting ready to jump on this desk.
No, he looks like he's getting ready to knock off your jewelry.
Do you want to touch on at all anything that has helped your depression, or anything you've learned, or anything that if there's a listener out there going, oh, that's me too, might relate to? It's okay if it's just still bad.
Yeah. For me, my depression has been getting significantly worse, then significantly better, then significantly worse again. I learned how to go on walks. Sorry, our cat almost just fell off the table. I've learned a lot, but I've also learned very, very little at the same time. Like, I've learned all the tools and I just don't use them. It's like if you gave me the tools to build a house and then told me to build a house. Like, I have the tools, but I don't have the energy. I don't have the willpower. I don't have the capability. I don't have the knowledge. It's a waiting game for my hormones to stop. And when they do, it'll be a much different world for me, because I think medication will work better. I think the tools will work better. I think once I'm able to want to feel better on bad days, then things will improve for me.
Yeah.
And I don't really have any words of wisdom. I don't have any, like, don't worry, guys. All you got to do is this this 1 hour a day thing you got to do. That's it. And because I know that those don't work.
Yeah. Do you think that there is some peace, and maybe peace is not the right word, maybe it's just solace in just accepting the depression, accepting that your brain is still growing, and accepting that how you feel today isn't going to likely be how you feel a year from now, 2 years from now? Or is that still one of the tools you can't access? And it's okay if it is.
Yeah, no. For me, not knowing how I'm going to feel tomorrow, not knowing if I'm going to be better or worse, not knowing if because I'm kind of like holding on to this hope of it'll be better later. It'll be better later. And if that does not work out, that's going to suck.
Yeah.
And so because I have that uncertainty of will it work out, there is no peace for me.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. On a side note, you said, yeah, no. And I say, yeah, no. And so many people do. And I didn't realize that that's kind of like an American thing to say.
It is an American thing to say.
And we get made fun of on the internet for it all the time.
Oh, yeah, because you're saying yes and no.
Yes, I just recently read this collection of memes making fun of people, Americans, for that, and been paying attention to the fact that I go, yeah, no, and then continue my statement. Like, I don't know why we do that.
Well, it's saying, yes, I hear you. You're wrong.
Yeah.
The yeah is not yes.
Right? It's like a acknowledgement of, I'm gonna answer you.
Yes.
Thanks for saying what you said. It's kind of even like sometimes I think I say it in place of okay. Mm-hmm. I don't know where it started.
This is so off topic, Mom.
Sorry. I swear I took my meds, but it is late in the day and they start kind of wearing off.
I took my meds, but hey, who knows when they work?
Well, they work because if you didn't take them, I don't think you would have asked me if we wanted to record a podcast today. So I think it's good to look at the preventative aspect. Mm-hmm. You know, like I put under eye cream on, but it's not to repair any damage. It's to prevent more damage. So you're taking your meds not to repair your depression, but to, you know.
Yeah, but what will repair my depression, Mom?
I mean,
I need that miracle
I
drug.
can't say a time machine because I don't think a redo would do anything. I think if you just listen to me more,
yes,
that might help. If you
I
let
agree.
me make you a schedule to follow.
Schedules don't help me.
I
think this is the craziest concept to you, and I know that you don't get it because obviously schedules and checklists must help everyone in the world. It does not help me.
No, I'm just saying, like, if I were to control all of your actions for a month, and that's what I mean by schedule. Like, I control when you wake up, what you do throughout the day, and you followed it, I think you would feel a little better because I would be forcing you to access those tools you're not currently accessing.
I think you're definitely wrong, and I think that that's something you need to talk to with your therapist.
Wait, you know how we could find out?
If we do it?
Yes.
I'll give you 1 day.
You'll give me 1 day?
Yeah.
Really?
Sure.
What day?
I'm not doing anything tomorrow.
Yes, you are. You're waking up at Nana's.
Oh, yeah, I am.
Thursday?
Thursday? Yeah.
I can have Thursday?
Sure.
This is really exciting for me.
Yeah, I'll do what you recommend.
You'll do everything on the calendar.
Sure.
There won't be a lot. I'm not going to overwhelm you.
You're not going to just give me every chore you want me to do?
Nope. It will not be. It is what I think a typical day would feel good for you.
Okay.
This is really exciting.
Deal. Our next podcast will be about that.
Yes. Okay. Wow. I really loved where this conversation has gone. All right. Well, enough about the depressing global pandemic.
And now that I've agreed to this.
Yes. Now that you've agreed to finally relinquish control to me, let's segue a little And it's been a while since our last podcast. We forgot to give a disclaimer that our real disclaimer is on our first podcast about noise and stuttering. So you can go listen to that if you haven't already.
Yeah,
if you're just discovering us for the first time. How about you tell our audience, 5-ish things that have changed in your life aside from shaving your head.
That was gonna be number 1.
We already covered that since our last podcast in, I believe, 2019.
Can I say Steven?
Yeah, Steven can be new to you.
Awesome.
I mean, he wasn't new to you.
Number 1, new family.
Well, we were already together.
Yeah, but okay, fine. Number 1, new bonds with new family.
New bonds with new family, yeah.
Especially my relationship with Willow has really been amazing.
I honestly think that's a good thing that came out of the pandemic.
I agree.
Not to keep going back to the pandemic, but I don't think you guys would have the relationship you have today if it weren't for the pandemic.
Yeah. Number 2, got a new piercing.
You did? Where is your new piercing?
It's conch piercing.
Yeah.
It's epic. It's very pretty.
It
Number
is.
3, got a new job.
Woohoo.
My first job.
Yep.
I'm having a lot of fun doing retail. Number 4, I now drive. Got my driver's license. That's
Woo-hoo.
pretty cool. Number 5, I redid my room, and it looks cool now.
It does look cool. You have
Painted the walls. Got new bookshelves. Got
fairy
new shelves.
garden.
Got a fairy garden on my windowsill. It's super cute. Love it. Love to see it. What about you?
Yeah, since our last, I got married.
Yeah.
That's a big one. I changed my job. I'm still at the same company but I have a different role that I absolutely love. I'm very happy. We adopted a baby tuxedo cat, and his name is Lord Percival, and he is the most precious cat the world has ever known. I have a son now. That's new. My oldest came out as trans. That's a pretty big one. And my mom moved back to Washington from Michigan. So we get to see her a lot more now.
Woohoo!
Yeah. So those are some good life changes. And yeah, I love this game. What are 3 things you are thankful you didn't miss out on because you are still here with us today? 3 things since the last podcast.
3 things since the last podcast. I am thankful for
experiences.
Peter Pan, the show I was in.
Oh,
very thankful for that.
Good.
That was so much fun. I had an amazing time with some amazing people. I got to play Tinkerbell, which is like a dream role.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
You did so good.
I got a bunny, which is so cute. He was amazing. I had to give him up, sadly, but I don't regret it for a second. I love him to pieces, and I still love him, even though he is back at the sanctuary.
Mm-hmm. Love him from afar.
Love him from afar. And lastly, I am thankful for...
I mean, I can give you ideas if you're running out. D&D with your other family.
I'm actually very, very thankful for connecting with my dad's side of the family more.
Yeah. Those are some wonderful things you would have missed out on had you left us too soon.
Mm-hmm.
3 things I am so thankful I got to experience. Honestly, I've had a lot of great experiences in the last few years, which is such a weird thing to say, but obviously my honeymoon was wonderful. And then I would say all the family time. I know I already said that, but Orion moved back to this side of the mountains temporarily. He will be leaving us again, but just getting to have him come over, hang out, veg out on the couch, see all the kids, connect. Oh, that that is a parent's dream come true. And then just strengthening my connections with friends, with, you know, the pandemic really forced you to decide who was going to be your few people. And I hated it because it's like cutting a roster, but you no longer have the ability to do things in big groups, which allowed you to see more people at once. And we don't do things as often. So I can't have 30 best friends. I don't have time to give that. I don't have energy to give that. So, you know, seeing which friendships, and I also want to say to anybody who cut me from their roster, I totally understand. Like, we all went through that and had to make those decisions, and none of it was intentional. It just was kind of organic, and you look back at hindsight and you're like, I have not reached out to that person for a while, and it doesn't mean I don't love them any less. I think this is such a side tangent. I think I view my role in a friendship and those expectations differently than maybe those people did. So there might be a person, we'll throw a random name out there, Chelsea, who Chelsea might say, well, I only care about hearing a hello text from Kristen once a year to know she's still alive and I'm still on her mind, where I might think, in order to be a good friend to Chelsea, I have to be able to do X, Y, and Z, and I can't. Therefore, I will just back away slowly because I'm awkward and I don't really know what to do with myself in this unique mind space that we're in. So anyways, all that to say, the few people who are still in my close circle, strengthening those relationships, going to Disneyland with a couple friends, going to happy hours, lounging on a friend's couch for, hours at a time, just vegging out. That has meant so much to me. And I know I will face a time where things change and shift, but I will forever be grateful for this period right now and those people in my life.
For those who cut me from their roster, I will never forgive you.
For those who cut Joe from their roster, I also will never forgive you, and you know exactly who you are.
No. I take that back. Of course, that was definitely a joke. My mom was not joking.
I'm not joking. You are not forgiven.
But I went through an experience where we were all cutting people from our rosters and everyone cut me. And I was left with 0 friends. And, yeah. But I get it. And I don't blame you. I don't blame me. I mean, I blamed me for a little while, but I definitely don't anymore.
I blame you. Not you, Joe. You, the friends. Yeah. But it has opened up space in your life for new connections, new relationships that are hopefully healthier. And, people do get cut from rosters. It just sucks that it all happened at once.
Yes.
And, there's probably people in my life who, like you, got cut from all rosters. And I don't know it. And they might be out there saying, Kristen, I forgive you for cutting me from your roster. And I want those people to know it's not personal. It really was organic. And a lot of it was based off of who I was hearing from, because I was kind of struggling at times to get out of my bubble. But if anyone has ever spent time on my roster, I will love that person forever and ever and ever. That's just how I am. I've had friends who I don't hear from for years, and then I see something on Facebook and they're in need of something. Done. I can be there. I'll show up. I love that person, and so I forgive anybody who cut me from their roster, and I still love them very much. But I don't forgive anyone who cut Joe, and I never will.
Yeah. Well, that's about the time we have for today.
I just want to take a moment, Joe, and thank you for inviting me to record another podcast with you. I'm so thankful that you were ready and wanting to. And that to me is a little bit of evidence that your depression, although normalized to you, is not as significant as it was a year ago, 2 years ago, which tells me a year from now, 2 years from now, it won't be as significant as it is today. It will always be there, just like my anxiety will always be here. But it does give me some hope for you. Thanks for hanging out with me.
Thank you.
Love you.
Love you too.
You're awesome.